The NLA is giving you more chances to multiply your Playway winnings by adding Multi-X to your regular Playway bets to win up to 5 times more. Imagine winning as much as $1,200 instead of $240 with a $10 Playway bet by simply adding Multi-X. Place your Playway bets from $1 to $10 or in increments on your favorite Playway symbols or numbers. Then add the Multi-X option at the same value to win 2 times, 3 times, 5 times more or free plays. With Multi-X, you must bet the same amount wagered on your regular Playway bets for your winnings to be multiplied. Grenadians, value your dreams and win your way as much as 5 times more with Multi-X added to Playway and watch your money grow. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA, making your dreams come true.
Yeah. NLA, making your dreams come true. Guys, welcome to Red Along Live for today. It is Wednesday, Hump Day. Yes. Gotta big up the National Lotteries Authority, sponsor of tonight's program, making it all possible. And listen, we also have another sponsor that I want to tell you guys about, right? They are, let me put it on the screen so you guys know. We got to big them up. The Miss Caribbean USA Summer Body Pageant. We'll be telling you a lot more about that coming up. But this event happens on the 25th of June. A lot to be expected from this pageant. Tell you a lot more about what's happening here. So how you guys doing? What's up? What's up, my lovely, beautiful people? Kibbs, how you doing? Jennifer, how you doing? Thank you. As you guys come and go ahead and share up the thing. Tonight we have a conversation with the MP for St. Patrick East, Mr. Dennis Cornwall. He's the current Minister of Finance. We're going to talk a whole lot more about who is Mr. Dennis Cornwall. We're also going to find out some little known facts, guys, some little known facts and things that I bet a lot of you guys don't know as it relates to finance and just everything in general. Talk about all of that stuff with Minister of Finance Dennis Cornwall. And we're giving you an opportunity as well to chime in. We're going to open up the phone line because it's a conversation, you know. I want you guys to be equally a part of this conversation as I am. In fact, it's your show. It's your show. Everybody share the thing. Kathleen, how you doing? Big up yourself. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you, guys. In fact, if you didn't share as yet, share it. Share it already, share it again. Also, I should also say that we apologize for the late start. The guest was running a little bit late, but, you know, Minister of Government have so many things on his calendar. He tried really hard to be here at the time, but, you know, he got caught up in a little bit of office work. Nevertheless, he's here. But I promise you guys, I'll give you back the time, okay? I'll give you guys back the time. All right, Lacey, how you doing? Guys, and for the people who did not get notification, please help them out. Because sometimes, you know, Facebook does this thing where it don't send out the notification as it's supposed to, and people don't get notification and they blame us. But it's not our fault. We're not the one who sent out the notification. If it was up to me, I will make sure everybody get notification. I'll make sure everybody get notification. But Facebook is the one in control of that. Thank you. All right, guys, could we start? Could we start now? We good? Hey, NR. Thank you so much. All right, guys. So let's go right into it. He is the current Minister of Finance and the MP for St. Patrick East. It's his first time on the program, guys. I want you to help me to welcome Minister Dennis Cornwall. Minister Dennis Cornwall, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great.
I find you to jacket and tie up, you know. I feel.
Well, let me explain that I just actually got home from work.
Okay.
So I was running late. I didn't have time to even come home and undress to basically be on the program with you. So it has nothing to do with I having to basically dress up for that particular interview. I was just basically running from work into work.
I know. It's difficult. I know. And I mean, listen, as I said, there are so many things that's in the pipeline that we need to discuss. And the topic of today's program, as I entitled it, is called, this is the title, Things You Don't Know. So things we don't know about Dennis Cornwall, and things that you could teach us, especially about finance, right? Because you are not the current Minister of Finance. But let's start with this one, things that we didn't know. Who is Dennis Cornwall? Who is Dennis Cornwall? Tell us, because he's the first time here as well.
Okay. Well, let me say that I'm born and bred from the village of Riverside, St. Patrick. I actually spent 16 long years of my life living at my mom's home in Riverside, St. Patrick's. Subsequently, having finished my secondary education, I took a scholarship to the Republic of Cuba. I spent 7 years in Cuba doing an economics course, as well as I learned the Spanish language. So I'm basically bilingual. I'm fluent in Spanish, as well as having attained an economic degree in Cuba.
Okay.
Actually,
so already, I didn't know that.
Actually,
no sabe tú hablar español.
No hablo español muy bien.
Aprendo a hablar español en mi escuela, en mi país, en Granada.
Sí.
Entonces, mi escuela aquí en Estados Unidos. Anyway, let's continue in English because people don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Exactamente.
Yes. So fluent Spanish, that I did not know.
Okay, I'm also from a very large family. My dad had, because he's now passed, 23 children. Currently, 21 of the kids are alive. And I have to be thankful for that.
Yes.
I am the fourth of my mom's kids, but maybe not the fourth of my dad's kid, because my dad had so-called outside children, or children with other women, which is basically something that is a Caribbean thing. Not that I emulate those things and so on, but it's a reality, fact of life.
Right.
That I had to deal with that situation while I was growing up.
Okay. That's in a nutshell who Dennis Cornwall is. As a kid growing up in St. Patrick, what was your passion? Did you always aspire to get into politics?
No, that was not my radar at that time. I basically had a full teenage life. I loved to play all kinds of sports. I was an avid swimmer. I liked hunting and those things back in the village of Riverside. I was a very open person, very friendly person. I still have lots of friends I've made over the years in St. Patrick, as well as in my school and throughout my career in school. So I've heard the story from people that Dennis Cornwall is someone that is not a friendly person. That is so far from the truth. Because I have more friends than a lot of persons would have in Grenada. And I'm talking about friends throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. I roam the country almost every day. And in every village or town in Grenada, I would have a friend of two in those villages.
Right. Tell us about your high school days.
I attended the St. Andrews Anglican Secondary School. During my time in SAS, Cresswell Julian used to be my principal then.
Okay.
I had other teachers, which I was very fond of. Cardwell Taylor is one of them who taught me French in school. There's an Alexander Mann that taught me Spanish in school also. I think he has passed by now. But there are other very good teachers I could remember. Mr. Crank, who taught me literature in school and so on. He was from the UK. We thought he was kind of crazy, but he was a very good lit teacher and so on.
Right.
Again, in school, I had lots of friends in my school. I could tell you people like Edmund Gordon, Kenneth Mullins, and a lot more.
Yeah. I went to SAS as well.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I went to SAS. I'm a Grenville boy, SAS. I went to St. Andrews Anglican Primary, then SAS. So we have a good thing going here. Semper Navigant, and I always go back.
Semper Navigant, yeah.
Semper Navigant. That's right.
My principal taught me Latin in school also. I cannot speak Latin fluently, but I can remember lots of phrases that we use
Yes.
in Latin. And again, all credit to my former principal, Cresswell Julian.
Yeah. Favorite subjects in school?
Well, I love maths as well as geography, love literature also. But my favorite subject in school was mathematics. Most of my colleagues would call me the mathematician. There was a maths teacher, Mr. Bain. I don't know if you know Mr. Bain or you knew him.
Mr. Bain.
He lived in Bain in the Paradise area. He's deceased right now, but he had an impediment that he walked with an impediment.
Okay, I don't remember him.
Right.
So why? Everyone have a story why they was into a particular subject. I like Spanish and French because I've always thought about, one day I'll fly internationally and I'll have to speak to people, and I would like to understand what they're saying, and I don't want them to be talking about me behind the back. So that was my passion. What was your passion in falling in love with mathematics?
Well, it's probably one of the subjects I understood best in school. I mean, I was exposed to French, Latin, and Spanish in school. And despite the many years in secondary school doing Spanish, English, and French, I was not able to speak French because I think the method in which they taught us those foreign languages, we could have never be able to speak those languages and so on. Because basically what we were doing is basically translating those languages back to English and vice versa.
But
and that's not the way.
French and Spanish has the same structure. You have the verb, conjugate the verb.
That's right.
It's the same format. When you talk about Mandarin and those other languages, it's totally different in the structure. But I could understand French to a point and Spanish because I apply the same technique in terms of the structure of the sentences. So I always say people who know Spanish have an appreciation for French.
It goes beyond that. If you know Spanish, you could understand a little Portuguese also.
Yes. Italian.
And Italian, yes.
Yeah.
And I believe the root of all those languages begins with Latin.
Right.
Because I've met people throughout my life and so on, guys who study medicine, dentistry, forestry, engineering, and so on. They all had to learn Latin to basically get the root for the scientific name of those medicine as well as trees that surround us.
Yeah. I remember a poem that I learned a French poem that we were supposed to learn. It's called Petit Caméléon. The Petit Caméléon, tu es enfant fainéant, tu changes de couleur. Tu as peur, tu t'amuses de nous, tu te caches partout, tu disparais soudain, réparer plus loin. So it is all in the language of understanding, and I love foreign languages. That's my thing. So we have a lot in common. See, I didn't know that. I did not know that we have so much in common. We went to SAS. Spanish was your favorite. My Spanish was my least favorite. I like foreign language. You speak Spanish. It's great. It's great. So yeah, a lot of things that we didn't know. Growing up as a young man, did you ever, in your wildest dream, ever thought for one day you will be in politics, public speaking, or public life?
The truth is no. I never thought about politics until probably just before 2022, thereabout. I started giving consideration to, should I make my contribution at a higher level in my country? And that's when I started talking about getting involved in politics. So I would say prior to 2021, thereabout, I would have not been even thinking about being a politician. I would like to basically say that I am not a career politician. I'm basically an academic that has done quite a bit of work professionally throughout my life, whether it be in banking, finance. I also was a teacher at both a primary school in River Valley as well as McDonald College in Cities.
What subject?
I taught maths and Spanish in McDonald College.
Okay. So you strong maths.
That's right.
That's your thing. That's your thing. What was it that made you think about getting into public life, getting into politics?
Well, as someone who basically sat in the background and listened to what is happening in the country, I have basically followed what is happening with respect to the both major political parties in the country. I was not too happy with what was happening with the former administration in terms of how they dealt with a number of issues. And I thought that maybe I can make a difference in the country. Coming from a rural area in the country, St. Patrick, and as you know, having to live in St. Patrick, which is probably most northern part of Grenada, you have a lot of colleagues around you that you can see who have gone to school, primary school, and they maybe was left to rot in the village, because even after they would have gone to school and they did not pursue, let's say, a tertiary education, they all basically fall to the land, the rum, and all that can go with it and so on in the villages. Some of them have had several kids with various women also, because again, nothing to do in the countryside and so on, but basically make you one of those kind of persons and so on. Luckily for me, I had the opportunity to basically move out of that society to uplift myself in many ways. Not that I'm basically bashing my colleagues in the countryside, because I think they are some very good ones that I can relate to. But I think the conditions in the country really and truly did not augur well for them to basically make a big thing about themselves, whether it's academically or otherwise. There are some very good ones. I don't want to call names so that one would say that I've left out others, but my colleagues have been very, good to me in the village of Rukasali.
What were some of the biting issues that you personally thought that you needed to change that influenced you to make that bold step? Because it is a bold step, considering the fact that when you get into politics, the friends that you have may turn against you because of the decision that you might make, you made to go left or right. People would always talk about you. There's always criticism. There's always things that will be said about you that might be untrue.
Let me say that I was very concerned about the level of poverty in the rural areas of Grenada. Unemployment to me is a scourge that we've had to deal with for many, many, many years. And again, I believe there could have been a lot more done in Grenada to basically improve people's livelihood. Unemployment does not give you an avenue out of your situation.
Right.
This whole issue of basically giving a man a fish every day of his life and so on, to me, is the dumbest thing you can do.
Right.
I would always say, teach a man to fish, and then he can basically find fish for himself throughout the remainder of his life. But if you never basically gave him that opportunity to do so by continuously giving him handouts, you would never be able to basically get that man out of his situation. And that to me was one of the concerns that hit me most. We needed to basically get our people out of poverty. We are not there yet. When it comes to things that people say about me, I would say I don't care, because people's opinion about me that does not relate to me in a particular way doesn't make a difference. And I could tell you that boldly. I have heard so many nonsense on the road about Mr. Cornwall. Mr. Cornwall knows who he is and will never be able to basically relate to some of the nonsense that's been talked about it.
Right.
I don't want to basically call names, but there is a radio station in the north of Grenada.
Yeah.
I don't want to call name either and so on. And every single time I turn on the radio and so on, the kind of nonsense I hear coming from those guys' mouth and so on, I think they are from Mars. That's all I can say.
Yeah. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. I don't want to jump the gun, because there's so much more we need to learn about you. What role did you play under the former NDC administration?
Actually, I was a public servant under the NNP administration from 1995.
Right.
Right. I worked with the former administration for a number of years. Somewhere in 1999, I had to basically leave the public service for reasons which I would not want to basically expose at this point in time.
No problem.
But I was not happy with the way things were happening in the Ministry of Finance, where I was the public officer responsible for budget and fiscal policy, as well as I did a small stint as permanent secretary, Ministry of Finance back then.
So
but
you
I was not
served
happy with it.
as permanent secretary under the former NNP administration as well?
Yes, that's true.
I believe at that point in time, you was permanent secretary and you was the boss of your brother, who is now permanent
Yes,
secretary.
yes. Actually, my brother came into the service sometime in 1996. In fact, he was working in the budget department where I was basically the head of that department. You know, he is qualified. He applied to the public service for a position in the budget department. The Public Service Commission sanctioned it and gave him a job. Now, as far as I'm concerned, being blood brothers, we both work along in the ministry without a difficulty. In fact, no one actually brought this matter up. But in recent time, I've heard the story that, Mr. Cornwall is now the Minister of Finance and his brother is the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance. And that is so much of a conflict of interest and other stories that they're trying to link that with and so on. I do not care about those statements for two reasons.
Mhm.
If it was okay under the former administration back in 1996, thereabout, I don't see what makes it different. He's a professional, I'm a professional. We do our work independently and separately. I do not cross his line, and I know he would not cross my line because we both understand what it takes to run a ministry and what it takes to be a professional in a ministry like finance.
You saying here, because I did hear conversation, I did hear people speaking about this, about the conflict of interest that exists now, that you're the Minister of Finance and your brother is the permanent secretary. So you saying that back then it was the other way around and no one uttered a word about the conflict of interest then?
I was his boss back then, and nobody uttered a word about that. I mean, maybe it could have been arrogance that they didn't know the relationship between my brother and I, but I mean, anyone who basically lives on Grenada knows my brothers and sisters to a large extent, and those who do not know, after spending those years with him in the Ministry of Finance before I left the Ministry of Finance, I can't see that argument being posed at this point in time to see that there is this conflict of interest between two brothers manning the Ministry of Finance. I mean, unless somebody wants to basically make a molehill into a mountain out of this matter, I don't really think it would, given that kind of consideration that you're talking about.
Right. Okay. All right. So I want to move kind of slowly. We jump ahead a bit, but I want to go back to, okay, so you served there in the former administration. And then what brought you into this administration now?
Well, the fact remains, I actually became the candidate for St. Patrick East. I was given just about 42 days to basically campaign for that seat in St. Patrick East. And I was able to pull that out because having left my job at the company that run the boat mall in St. George, that's the Bush Street and Esplanade Mall, I had no other choice but to ensure that I pull that seat out because, I mean, having resigned from my job and other activities in St. George's, because I was also chairman of the Arise Credit Union. I also had to resign from that particular entity because once you get into politics and so on, you cannot be in an institution such as the credit unions. So I tried to basically minimize
What role did you play at the Arise Credit Union?
I was the president of the credit union for a 3-year stint, more or less, but I resigned just before the 3-year stint was expired.
Okay. All right. Got into politics. You started to campaign. You had a very short time to campaign. I'm sure you probably thought that you would have had more time before the election was called.
Well, that's true because, again, having given up my job at the end of April, elections were called in June 23rd. That means, hardly 2 months to basically get that done. I mean, you had to basically go out there in the field and meet and greet everyone that you wanted to basically vote for you. I mean, one of the things I've had as a campaigner was that most people in my constituents, especially the very young ones, were claiming that they didn't know Mr. Cornwall. And I don't blame them because, I mean, their parents, who are my more or less colleagues from school, I think they had an obligation to basically tell the kids who Mr. Cornwall was because I spent at least 16 to 18 years living in Riverside, St. Patrick. Traveled on the East Coast and the West Coast, Granite Town, to get to work on a daily basis until I decided to basically reside in St. George's because it was more convenient for me. I don't tell people those things, but there were times when I worked in the budget department where I worked very late, even after 2 in the morning. I used to have to basically trek the Granite Town to get home and be back on the job at 8 o'clock in the morning to make sure that things happen. So I've had very passionate time on the road trying to get home.
Yeah, yeah. So would you consider yourself like a workaholic? Work extra hard, work overtime?
Well, I'm always a hardworking person. I heard one person referred to me as low energy. And I said to myself, that could be the dumbest statement somebody could make up on Mr. Cornwall. Well, again, I consider the person to be a dumb. And I leave it at that.
Okay. All right. So hardworking, very, very, very much into financial management. You worked in as a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance, and here you're placed in a position to be a representative, a MP for a party that just kind of started to take shape. You have a new leader. You have almost everyone on the ground are new candidates. How was campaigning? Tell us about what you had to do or what you thought about the campaigning time frame.
Well, I know it was going to be a tough period because, again, it was very short. The former administration announced the elections on June 23rd, just after I was basically confirmed as a candidate for St. Patrick East. So it means that having had a date ahead of me, which is June 23rd, at the end of April, I had to do everything I had to do to make sure that I can basically canvass all the villages and so on in St. Patrick East. I'm talking about Hermitage, Montrose, Montreat, Snellhall, Leverett, La Fortune, Rose Hill, River Sally, Sates. I mean, some people who have not basically been in this part would not understand that it's a tidy space that you have to cover. And it was not an easy task because not everybody live on the roadside. Even if you're driving and so on, you had to park that vehicle and trek through the mountains and through the hills and so on to get to where people live. And therefore, I would say that was a very, very, very tough campaigning cycle for me. Notwithstanding, I think I had the energy and the willpower to make it happen. And therefore, I went out to make it happen.
Yeah. What do you think were your strengths? What do you think were that thing that propelled you over the top in St. Patrick East?
I would say persistent in trying to get a job done and get it done well. Because when I was told that people did not know Mr. Cornwall and they wanted to see Mr. Cornwall, I made it my duty to travel through every village, every house, to make sure that I had that opportunity to meet and greet the people and so on. And one of the things I've always said to the people who I met on my way is that I wanted to be your voice in Parliament. I want to be your representative in Parliament. And that statement was not just a simple statement. It was a statement that I took to heart because I wanted to make a difference in my constituency.
I'll tell you what I heard, because this is a very informal kind of conversation. We're having a very informal conversation. I'll tell you what I heard, right? You could divert or answer or not answer. I heard that people said that, people had a pity for Cornwall. People was feeling his pain that he was going through at that point in time. And they voted for him because it was a vote against what was done to him.
Well, I don't know what you're referring to specifically, but there was this dumb statement out there that I got into politics because I wanted to get back at the former prime minister and so on because of other issues and so on.
Yeah.
Let me make it clear here and now. That was far from the truth.
Okay.
I don't care what the man did or what he does. It does not bother me. I don't go to bed thinking about him and what he did. And if he's looking for somebody to be sympathetic to him and so on, I would say to him, do not use me as your concern about you having lost your election. You lost the election because there were a group of honest young men who was willing to basically take the mantle and to show Grenadians that we can make a difference for this country. It has nothing to do with man and woman story. It
Mhm.
has never been one of my concerns. And I'd always say, don't take this and run with it. You're wasting your time with that kind of ideas and so on.
Yeah, people like you. You're a straight talker. Not afraid to confront the issues at hand. Because I remember seeing you on the ground in St. Patrick. It was boots on the ground for you. You were actually working. So when I heard that, I mean I know that you were actually working. It wasn't a pity party. It wasn't a vote like, a sorry vote or solidarity vote. It was because you put in the hard work. And I saw that. I personally firsthand saw that type of engagement from you. All right. So the campaign in the night of election, you're there. Where did you watch the live, or were you watching it live? How did you follow the election?
Well, actually, on election day, I had to be going around to the various PDs, that's polling divisions and so on, to ensure that the people who basically were working for the NDC team were doing what they're supposed to have done.
Mhm.
In fact, one of my PDs station, I attended, the one in Snell Hall, Mount Street area, we had some difficulty there. In other words, we didn't have enough manpower in that area. And I spent at least 2 hours in that PD holding on for the young lady who was basically the inside agent. That was allowed for because you could have gone in and basically visit your PDs and at least spend some time with your persons inside. But I spent about 2 hours in the Snell area to ensure that we had coverage for the entire day. Additionally, I was moving around from PDs to PDs and so on to make sure that my personnel in the field were doing what they were supposed to do. In fact, when I was coming from Hermitage at 3 o'clock that afternoon, someone said to me that, boy, you won this election because based on the numbers that we see coming in and so on, you would have won it. So between 3 o'clock and about just before 6 o'clock that evening, I was in River Sally, close to the River Sally Government School, and I can see the other side were there and they were not able to move because in previous elections, by midday, they were celebrating already.
Yeah.
And because they did not have the numbers, they could not have started celebrating at midday. So it went down to the wire until the final count came in from Roselle. Then I knew I actually had that in the bag. I mean, I didn't take it for granted when I was told at 3 o'clock, boy, the numbers look good for you and so on. I waited up to the 99th hour in Versailles to make sure that the numbers were counted and that I secured that particular seat.
Canvassing. How was your canvassing looking?
Well, I've had some hard-working foot soldiers that did some work with me and so on. I mean, I would always say to them that I very much appreciate the hard work and the sacrifice they would have made to make it happen. Canvassing is hard. Political work is hard. There are times people make you enemies because they feel that they couldn't get you to do what they wanted to do. Everybody had an opinion on how to get it done.
Yeah.
But you have to follow your gut feeling at times. And I would say that I still thank the persons who basically were with me in the trenches doing the work and so on. I mean, after 10, 11 months into office, I still have not been able to at least assist every one of those guys and so on. I mean, not because of not wanting to do so, but when you get into office and you realize that you are not basically there to serve just your foot soldiers or the NDC comrades that were on the ground with you, but you are now placed in a position where you have to serve the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, and I mean that seriously. My former stint as Minister of Infrastructure, Physical Development, Civil Aviation, Public Utilities, and Transportation is one that basically has large coverage throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique.
Yes.
And therefore, I could not be saying to my constituents that you'd be able to see me every single day of the week, the way you saw me while I was campaigning. While I was campaigning, I was an unemployed person. and therefore I could have been in any location at any point in time.
Right.
Now, having to run a ministry, being an MP for a location, and to also try to meet everyone, ministers of government, ministers of religion, everybody wants a piece of you. Even the very constituents that vote for you or not vote for you wants a piece of you.
Mhm.
So you have to find that balance to make sure that you can deliver in a big way.
But,
Now,
but look at this here. The position. I want you to explain to me which take precedence, right? The position of MP, that job was given to you by the people. The people voted
right.
you, right? The position of your cabinet position or your ministerial position was given to you by the prime minister. Which one take precedence in the governance of your daily activities?
Well, while I'm fully aware that the constituents are the ones that put you into office, you also have to find that balance to ensure that the ministerial portfolio that you are given to run, that you're able to run it efficiently also. In other words, why would I accept a position of Minister of Infrastructure, Physical Development, Civil Aviation, Public Utilities, and Transportation, and not being able to deliver because you find yourself tied up with your constituents in the MP office on a daily basis? I'm not saying the constituents are not important, because again, without them, you would not be in office. But at the same time, you have two tough jobs that you have to take care of. And
Right.
I believe that people have to understand the difference between running a ministry, which takes a lot of your time also, because even when you run a ministry, there are things that you do locally as well as regionally and internationally. You have to travel to basically attend meetings that Grenada is part of. Take, for example, about 2 weeks back, I was in Miami chairing the OECS Ministers of Energy meeting on Zon. Grenada was the chair of that meeting, and therefore Grenada had to travel to basically make sure that they can make it happen. So sometimes when I tell my constituents, look, I have to travel, or I cannot be in St. Patrick East, I mean, some of them believe that I am a robot, That
Right.
cannot be real. You have
But
to be able to balance that. If you can't balance that, you're in trouble.
Is there a way, Mr. Cornwall? And I understand, just like everything else. But here's what I also understand. This guy, what's his name? The one that owns Twitter and Telsa. He has 100,000 employees. He's just one man, but he's able to find a way to manage all this millions of dollars and thousands of companies. Is there a way that the work could be done without one suffering and overpowering the other? I know you're just one person, and we all, everyone.
Well, social media, the internet has made life for us a bit much easier, because we can have virtual meetings and all those things.
The name that I wanted to get at. Well, go ahead, sorry.
So I am not saying that with the advent of Zoom being able to at least make life easier for us. I mean, we learned a lot during the COVID period that you can meet and make decisions from meetings that you held virtually. But I'm talking about here that I'm only one person. If I have to travel from St. George's to St. Patrick or vice versa, it takes time, it takes energy, it takes a lot of stress to do that job. Because the roads in Grenada are not as smooth as you think, as well as they are not as easy as you would like it to be in terms of traversing. Guys drive crazy on the road. You have to make sure that you secure yourself on the road also.
Right.
So sometimes if I say to myself, look, today is a day I'm not basically going to go to St. George's, it means I'm not going to go to St. George's because I know it's a tall order for me to do so, and vice versa.
Right.
You cannot kill yourself trying to basically please people, whether or not they voted for you or not. The question is, they have to understand that you're only one person. I've had people tell me they don't see me in the community and so on. But just imagine that St. Patrick East has about, let's say, 15 villages and so on. Can I be in all 15 villages at the same time? The answer to that is no. And I would not promise anybody to be in 15 villages at the same time, because that's impossible.
Right.
I can go to villages after villages and so on, spend some time in the villages and so on, but notwithstanding, I know that I cannot do it in one day and I cannot do it all the time because the body gets tired sometimes. You need
Right.
rest, you need to replenish yourself. And I don't think anybody could fault me for saying that I need time to basically rest and replenish myself.
Right. Okay. And you said, they have to understand, but people don't have to understand. People, they don't necessarily have to understand crap. People think that you're a robot, and I understand. Same thing with me. People call me 12 o'clock in the night, right? And I understand. But what about a specific day? Is there a designated day for your constituency?
From day one, I have
Mhm.
assigned Thursdays to be my constituency day. I have always been in St. Patrick East on a Thursday, irrespective of whether or not I had an office from where I could operate from in St. Patrick. I go back to the fact that having been actually given the mandate to run St. Patrick East, it took us about roughly 4 or 5 months before the Parliament was able to give us an MP's office. And there might be rationale why it took so long, because I mean the Parliament may or may not have the experience to basically deliver on that for most of our MPs.
Mhm.
When I made a statement at one of my town hall meetings in St. Patrick that I did not have an access to an office in St. Patrick, that was real.
Mhm.
There were no offices, there were no equipment to basically operate an office in St. Patrick because we depended on the Parliament to provide that for us. The Parliament took close to 5 to 6 months before they were able to give us a shell with a desk and a chair and a laptop. No furnishings for the person to manage my office. No furnishing to basically accommodate anybody who come to basically see the MP in my office. So I want people to basically underscore this. Those who were out there talking about Mr. Cornwall was not working and he was not seen, tell me if you could operate an office without chairs, table, or computer in this modern day. In fact, I don't like complaining these days and so on, but the office is relatively very hot at the moment
Mhm.
without air condition, but I still manage to basically operate from within there. And again,
Mhm.
I don't want to sound like, I'm just complaining. It's not about complaining.
Right.
But an MP is supposed to be given proper office space and condition to operate. Sometimes I feel pity for my people come and sit down or stand in a passageway and so on, waiting to see me in the
Mhm.
heat. And you ask yourself, is that what an MP's office is supposed to be? But I work with it, and I've been there every Thursday when I can. There are times when I'm out of state, I cannot be there. There are times when I have parliament meeting on that day, I cannot be there. There are times when I have cabinet meeting on a Monday, or there is an activity that requires parliamentarians to be at a certain location, I may not be there. But I've made it my duty. Every Thursday, you can come to St. Patrick East in the area close to Nawasa's office.
Mhm.
You would find me in that office from around mid-morning to probably late afternoon.
Right.
And if I'm not in that office, I'm in the field doing what I should be doing.
Right. What are some of the major needs of St. Patrick East? What are people requesting? What are the ask in that constituency?
Well, I can say to you that, having gotten into office, and we must say that we inherited a number of things that came over from the former administration.
Mhm.
You had a situation where there was about between 17 and 22 um, social programs that was basically undertaken by the former administration, from books, uniforms, handouts, seed fund, cess fund, provision of lumbers for people for housing and so on. Every one of those things and so on. We have maintained them to some extent. But when you inherit a society that is based on give me, give me, give me incessantly and so on, it is hard on every one of those MPs and so on to be able to deliver.
Mhm.
You know, I've always heard the PM talk about, you run for office, you basically canvass everybody in the villages and constituency about, voting for you so you can serve them in their capacity. What we don't have is that becoming a MP, you have no resources from the state
Mhm.
to be able to give the man or the woman or the child on the street and so on when he asks you for a handout or some kind of thing. Money is gas, lumber. You know, you don't have the resources in your hand to be able to give them.
Mhm.
And sometimes parliamentarians are treated very badly because I've heard stories where somebody expected to buy a drink for them and you didn't buy the drink, so you're a cheap guy.
Mm.
That's one of the things I've heard they said about former Prime Minister Tillman Thomas and so on, that he went to a shop, buy drinks, and expected his change. And I'm saying to myself, well, look, those folks out there don't realize that the meager salary that a parliamentarian is paid does not give them the wherewithal to be able to give everybody who begs them for $5 or $10 or for a tank of gas. We do not have those resources. The state does not provide us with those resources to give you what you're asking us for. If I do give it, it comes to my pocket,
Right.
right?
So what could you provide if someone come into your office, into your constituency office? What could you actually do for them?
Well, I would direct them most of the time to the social program that exists because they are the Ministry of Social Services, that's the retail side of this whole politics and so on, where everybody goes to get what they think that they can get from the government, be it
Mhm.
housing, be it books, be it uniform tuition, be it glasses, be it seed fund, be it cess funds, whatever it is and so on. You get it from the social programs. The social programs are not synonymous with the MP's resources. Because as I said again, the government of Grenada does not provide any MP with resources to be able to give people a handout a day. That's a
Mhm.
fact.
Is this something that you think that that the constituency have grown used to or
Well,
adaptive
I
to?
would say based on what I've been hearing on the ground. I mean, people in the past under former administration, they used to get the gas and they used to get the this and they get the that. I asked myself, how did they do it? Where did they get the resources from? And I don't want to basically be, crazy and saying that people got those funds by ill-fated means and so on, and therefore we should continue that. I, for one, will never associate myself with bubble or with funds that are earned outside of the system.
Mhm.
And therefore, if you're looking for an MP to be able to basically fund your lifestyle, to buy
Mhm.
your rum and to do this and do that out there and so on, probably you should consider finding a way to basically convince your constituents that maybe the government should find a way of providing resources for us to be able to do that.
Mhm.
I cannot take my meager salary that I have to use to take care of my own personal business to be
Mhm.
given everybody on the street. That's impossible. You cannot do that.
Mhm. And because
And
your inability to do that,
because
people
you
are.
don't have the resources to do it, you were not given the resources to do it. Even if you came into office with your own personal resources,
Mhm.
if you continue doing that for too long, you would also become a pauper.
Right. But isn't the government supposed to provide a conduit to which people will could live a better, manageable life? Isn't the government supposed to provide that atmosphere for people to live, or is it?
Well, I would agree with you in a sense, but I would say to you that we have to basically control people's expectations. I mean, you don't go out there giving the people the impression that you can make magic for them. I was not voted into office to become a magician
Mhm.
because I don't think I can make magic with the resources that are made available to us. I've heard in the past that you know handouts were given to constituents and so on. I don't know where those funds come from. In fact, I have seen where, for example, businesses may basically collaborate with a minister to provide, for example, some kind of grant funding, like I did in December for some of my constituents, where a company afforded us funds to basically make available vouchers to our constituents and so on. But that again is limited. You cannot go out there just accepting gift. In fact, accepting gift without proper record of those gifts at the Integrity Commission and so on, you'll find yourself in difficulty sooner or later.
Right.
And therefore, any income that is gained illegally, I would not be part of it.
Right. Let me, Shireen is asking a question to me, and she's saying, but Junior, how is the government job to promote atmosphere for people to live? What I'm saying is the government should provide, like, for instance, if there is no job in the country, or if there is no will of entrepreneurship, the government should at least create the environment. The government should, whether it, like in the CES program, I think is a good opportunity that the government provided for people to start their own businesses. So it created the atmosphere. If there is no job in the country, the government might find ways in which he could stimulate jobs, not give everybody jobs, but create the enabling environment. So I'm not saying that it is the government responsibility to hire every person. I don't think that the government could put everybody in the public sector, but it create enabling environment. So that's exactly what I'm saying. Creating the enabling
Well,
environment.
I totally agree with you that government job is to create the enabling environment so that jobs can be created both in the private sector as well as in the government sector.
Yes.
Now, I would say to you without even winking that anyone expects government to provide jobs for everybody who out there looking for a job. You're asking for the impossibility, because government will never be able to provide jobs for everybody.
True.
Government provided the enabling environment. We have basically put on this CES program where persons were granted funds up to a maximum of $30,000 to basically open their business or to expand their business, or those who are affected from the COVID and so on to basically get back on track. We had a situation whereby 15 million thereabouts was actually provided for that purpose. You had over 6,000 persons applying for that. At the end of the day, just over 500 persons actually benefited from the CES program. But the reality is that if we had to provide at least $30,000 for that 6,000 persons and so on, we're talking a lot more millions of dollars to make it happen. And obviously, government could not make that 6,000 persons that applied for the CES fund happy. I mean, there were those persons who didn't get, and they were very upset and very angry still. The question remains, government could not have provided for those 6,000 persons. The 500,000 persons who got, I think I am still here saying to them, make the best use of it and so on. If you can employ 2-3 persons and so on with you to make sure that somebody gets some kind of means of survival, then that's fine. But again, check on where government gets its resources to be able to make good some of the expenditure that it undertakes from time to time. That is building the roads, repairing the roads, paying public servants, paying suppliers, paying contractors outside there. All of that comes from taxes, right? There are those who don't like to pay tax either. Mm-hmm. But you have to be raising those monies via tax or grants or other means and so on that is available to the government to be able to finance the operations of government. And again, this is not an infinite situation. There is so much you can do and no more. And therefore, persons ought to understand out there that you cannot solely depend on the government to provide jobs for you at all times and every time. Sometimes you have to take initiative your own self and to use whatever resources that you get to make things happen for you. You know, I don't think that Grenadians are lazy people. We have people who basically have done a lot of innovative things and so on. But we need to have more people taking control of their life and so on and get away from this handout story, because to me, you could never satisfy this handout story forever. Mm-hmm. Because you depend on taxpayers to basically pay the tax and use the income that you raise via that means to basically make things happen for government. Right. And I don't care which government in office and so on. You cannot continue just doling out monies and so on or cash to people and expect that the society will be a better place and so on. People have to get up and make use of what they have and so on.
But there are people who, rightfully so, need government assistance.
I am totally in agreement with you, Anza, because there are some persons in society will never be able to at least create an income for themselves. And that's why we have social programs within the system. But again, it's an ill-fated attempt when persons who are able to work are trying to benefit from those social benefits that are provided by government. I mean, right now we are going through a program right now where we're trying to recertify the persons who are getting monies under the seed. And the reason for that, we believe there are a lot of people in there that are not supposed to be there in the first case. There are people who basically not living in Grenada and still benefiting from the seed program. There are persons who are collecting monies on behalf of dead persons in the system. And I'm saying all that, not to basically make Grenadians look silly, but the fact remains that we have to be responsible in what we do. If you can responsibly collect funds on behalf of a dead person for years, does that make sense to you? That's illegal.
Right, right. So the seed program that give these funds to what's supposed to be people who needs it, you're saying that you captured a large number, or is it a large number or a small number? Is it a substantial amount of people?
Well, there are a lot of people basically make the program seem as though it's an old people program, right? If you basically count the amount of elderly that are benefiting from that program, I would say less than 2,000 persons and so on. But the seed program provides for in excess of 5,000 persons. There are persons in there, yes.
Over 3,000 people in there are able-bodied people that could actually work?
Well, not the entire amount, because you have people in there who are, I don't want to use the word handicap, but they depend on other persons to basically take care of them. In other words, you cannot work, you might be bedridden, you might be, you have an impediment, you cannot work, you might have a mental situation, you cannot work. Yes, there are some of those people in there. But at the same time, there were people on the program who are able-bodied people who were collecting their monies, and these persons were able to work. I don't care what you call it. Social programs, yes, we need them in our country at all times. But those funds should be directed to the right persons and not just anybody who wants to basically barter a vote for cash. No, I think that's the wrong approach to this whole thing.
What do you say to people that say that it's a good idea what you're doing coming to the system, but it's bad politics?
Well, there is a notion out there that the NDC government do not care about poor people, and that we always try to target the less fortunate or those persons that are in dire needs of resources from the government. Now, I do not subscribe to that statement, because I know the NDC government is a very caring government, and we have continued to follow most of the social program that we have met in place. We have basically reviewed most of them and make sure that they serve the purpose for which they were intended to. And therein lies some of the situation that we are facing now, where we say we have to recertify persons under the seed. We have to ensure that the persons who basically get small jobs, be it the roadside cleaning and so on, that they do a good job. There is value for money in that. Some people hate the word value for money when we talk about social programs and so on, and say, why don't you just give the people the money and so on because they need it? The question is, you are taking monies from taxpayers who pay into the treasury, and you have to be careful how you go about basically doling out those monies out there. Because, I mean, I don't believe in this Robin Hood politics where you take from the rich, you give to the poor and so on, or vice versa. But the fact remains that you have to be responsibly the way you basically expend the revenue collected from taxpayers. So while, for example, some people might be able to pay the tax comfortably and so on, while others may not be able to pay tax, the fact remains that the system has to be fair enough to ensure that at least most of the persons who are employed or who has a business pay a fair share of the tax and so on, so we can basically take that revenue to meet some of the demands that we have from the less fortunate and those persons who are not able to work.
After combing through that 5,000 list of names, or that big list of names in the seed program, do you think that government would realize a savings that they could reinstate back that 150 to the people who might really be in need of it?
Well, I do not want to speak out of turn because, again, the exercise is not yet completed. I don't know what the data shows at the end of the day. But I believe that, you know, every time we think about increasing funds to the persons who are less fortunate, we have to ask ourselves the question, do we have the resources that we will require to do so in all its glory? And the answer to that is no.
Right.
If you have a lot of persons outside there who are not paying their tax, a lot of people who are basically um, evading tax because
Right.
they believe they are smart people and so on. The fact remains that as the economy grows and so on, we might have more tax collected. But at the same time, the demands continue to meet you in your face every single day of the week. So
Right.
every month, the government has to find monies to basically provide the seed. Every month, the government has to find monies to pay the public servants who are employed with it. They have to find monies to pay the contractors, to repair the roads and to build the schools and to make sure that the kids are properly handled in the schools. So the
But
question remains.
it does. That's that government get grants, government goes out there, they get contracts, government goes out there, gets assistance from foreign governments, government. I mean, there are many, there are multiple ways of income sources, isn't it?
Yes, but at the same time, you would find institutions out there that would provide you grant for projects, be it a project that would benefit persons in the society. I don't think anybody out there would basically give you a grant to pay salaries
Right.
to your workers and so on. You have to manage that yourself. So
Right.
yes, there are grants, there are loans, there are soft loans and so on, which government access. But again, you don't go and borrow monies and so on just to waste it. You have to make sure that you get value for money. You have to get resource at the end of the day that basically lasts you for 20, 30 years and so on. You don't have to go back to patch holes on it or to make sure that you have to do a total overhaul of it and so on. That's why, for example, when we build roads like the Monkuma Road and so on, we were making sure that these roads, once commissioned, they could give it 20, 30 years. If you don't have that scenario and so on, it means that we'll be spinning up in mud over and over every day, trying to do things that should have been lasting us a longer time is lasting us less. I also would tell you that roads throughout Grenada and Carriacou and Pitimatnik is not an easy task to maintain. You have all kind of vehicles, all kind of tonnage on the road and so on. Our roads were not built for those heavy tonnage trucks and so on that carry the gravels and the concrete and the cements and what have you and so on. We have to basically have a totally different mindset in terms of the kind of roads that we build to allow for some of those trucks to run on the road and so on. Grenada population is about 120,000 thereabout. The population of cars and trucks and other vehicles on the road is very high. And I think we may have to move to a situation where we basically find ways and means of controlling traffic on the road. I mean, every day I drive on the road, I come across accidents on the road or white marks on the road. We say that there was an accident there. We have to basically get our drivers to be more careful on the road. I see people driving like, there is no tomorrow. They go in Norway at 100 miles per hour and so on. And these are some of the things that cause the accident on our road. I mean, not even we put, for example, traffic lights and humps and everything on this road in Grenada. Until our people get to the conscience that you have to take your time on the road and so on, we'll be forever having accidents. We'll be forever having issues to basically deal with the road.
Yeah.
And government cannot be blamed for some of this madness outside there. It takes everyone to be conscious of the fact that we are users of the roads and we are users of the facilities that government creates. If we do not take care of it, it will be gone. I look at buildings that government would have been erected and so on, and for years, they were never maintained. So when you have to go to maintain them, it takes millions of dollars to do so and so on. So therefore, I believe we ought to basically get into a culture of maintaining what we build, whether it's road, bridges, departments, ministries, we have to maintain that. And our people ought to understand that the monies that is used for taking care of those things comes from taxpayers' monies. So we ought to basically do what is right with taxpayers' monies.
Right. You are now the Minister of Finance, a very, very important role. I think based on, what we learned from you earlier, you are well equipped. You were placed as the former permanent secretary, so you're well equipped in that position right there. What is the thrust? What is the push at the moment to get all these overdue taxes? I was said almost half a billion dollars or so in overdue taxes that is outstanding to the government.
Okay, are you finished with the question?
Yeah. So I was asking, what is government doing right now?
Well,
Right.
government has actually taken a position in the 2023 budget to implement an amnesty for a period of 1 year to allow for taxpayers who have outstanding arrears of taxes to government to be able to at least approach government and to pay the principal tax. By doing so, the interest, penalties, and fees that were generated on the tax that was not paid, the government would waive that from January to December 2023. We have gone to Parliament and basically passed an act to basically ensure that the Minister of Finance has the authority to basically ensure by the end of 2023 that every Grenadian who owes the government tax would have actually made an approach to government to have the tax settled. We're also looking at bringing in a new taxation system in 2024 from January. We do not want to have to bring over baggage or garbage from one tax system to another.
Right.
We are hoping that the time that we have given ourselves the 1 year should allow citizens of Grenada to come forward and basically make good the payment of their arrears on tax. And I think Grenadians should take that time off and to make sure they approach the government early o'clock. Don't wait until the 19th or by December to basically create a traffic jam in the ministry to have that tax paid. You have from January to December. Even as I speak now, you can come next week, tomorrow, and have your tax settled out, negotiated. The government is prepared to collect only the principal at this moment. Failure to pay the principal between January and December of 2023, your tax would revert to what it was, plus additional interest and penalties. So you're just making your life harder at the end of the day. I mean, when we announced the debt in arrears that we're talking about here, tax in arrears, is over $700 million. At first, we talked about 600 million. After we did some homework, that figure is estimated to be over $700 million.
That is really
Now,
that
these
is,
are money.
that is principal and interest, or
Principal and interest.
okay.
Right? So we are saying if people come out and basically approach government to negotiate and pay the principal amount, most of that 700 and something thousand dollars may come down to, let's say, about half or even
$700
less.
million. You said
Yes.
thousand, but $700 million.
Million, sorry about that.
Yeah.
But you must take that concerted effort to make sure you go out to the tax department and ensure you can basically make good on that. Because it's twofold. We are trying to basically recover some of the tax that is outstanding out there. And two, we want to make taxation simpler in Grenada. Simpler for payment. You can then, in 2024, be able to pay tax online from your bedroom, from your business trip, wherever you are. You can be able to pay your tax. Once you have your tax information, you can use your debit card, your credit card, cash, whatever it is, and so on, to make sure that your tax is up to date. If you do not use that period to do that, it means you would compound your problem down the road. And at that time, the Minister of Finance will have given you sufficient time to deal with those matters. And if you fail to do so, I am sorry, the minister would not have any other choice but to enforce the law.
And that would be garnishing. That would be, I mean, all
garnishing, force you to basically sell your property to pay the government tax, or the government can basically initiate action to basically get you to pay that tax.
How did it get so bad? How did it get so bad, Mr. Cornwall?
Well, it may have gotten that bad because people are of the notion that they can get away with those things in the past. Sometimes government try to push the problem down the road, kick the can down the road as far as they can. I mean, I don't believe in people basically saying that because I voted for a government and so on, I shouldn't pay tax to the government, or vice versa. We are all Grenadians that are conducting business, and therefore we have an obligation as a Grenadian, as persons who own property, persons who are employed, to pay your tax, be it income tax or property tax or whatever tax you have to pay. Businesses and so on that conduct business and collect VAT from customers and so on, and hold that VAT as the cash flow is illegal. Once you collect the VAT, you're supposed to pay it over to the government and so on, because it's not your monies. It's monies you have collected from your customers that should be transferred to the government of Grenada. It's not your money, and I repeat that. So persons who had the practice of collecting VAT from customers and hold that VAT as the cash flow, I'm sorry, the days for that would be over.
Right. When I
You cannot continue business.
When I asked the question, how did it get so bad? Someone said, Junior, is that a serious question? So let me clarify on that question. Now, a lot of people that I've spoken to, not business, I'm talking about individuals, they don't even have the slightest idea how to file their taxes. Is there were they an enabling environment so people know the process of filing their taxes, or people were just illiterate to the fact of how to do it, when to do it, where to do it?
I can speak for the Inland Revenue Department because they are in the business of collecting tax. They send out advance notice. In fact, I have seen cases before COVID and so on that the Inland Revenue Department used to basically go from village to village and so on in the form of motorcade, stop in villages and so on, and try to encourage persons who have tax outstanding, show them how to do it and so on. And I mean, that's part of their duties and so on. Educate persons how to basically file taxes. Income tax, for example, the form has been printed out and so on. It has explanation notes. It tells you how to go ahead to do it. But if you're in doubt, you still can go to the Ministry of Finance, the Inland Revenue Department, and I'm certain that the workers will be able to tell you, well, look, this is how this type of tax is filled out and so on. So there's no excuse that people plead ignorance, that they don't know what to do and they don't know how to do it and so on. Just go to the Inland Revenue Department if you have doubts, and they would explain to you how to get that tax filed. And that excuse of basically they don't know what to do should never be an excuse, because everybody else know what they have to do when they want to do it to withhold government tax and so on. But yet they tell you don't know what to do and so on. That is utter nonsense.
Right. Here is my pushback. Now, well, not a pushback, by observation. I think the Ministry of Finance and other ministries as well could do more in terms of PR, public relations.
I certainly agree with you. I certainly agree. And every time I speak, wherever I speak, I said that, persons out there who expect to perform a particular duty should be assisted by some PR to ensure that they understand what they need to do.
Yes.
So I'm not hiding behind that. It is needed throughout the government system.
Yes.
Whether it's a pay tax, whether it's to basically file a claim for something, or even the contractors outside there who basically needs to file a claim to the ministry to get paid, they need to know that there are ground rules that must be followed to be able to get your monies on time.
Right.
I mean, I've seen stories where people run to a minister and say, well, okay, they have not gotten the pay. The question is, have they actually prepared the claim to file to the ministry and so on before they run and get the minister to say they didn't get paid? I mean, most of our contractors out there, and I'm not here to bash people, most of them do not have the financial wherewithal and so on to basically carry out a project, because some of them just do not have the financial basis to do it. Again, I'm not blaming anybody for it. But the question is and so on. If you do what you're supposed to do, if you know that, for example, a payment cycle is 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and so on, then work with it, because we have basically local projects, we have regional projects, we have projects funded by institutions like CDP, World Bank, and others. And they all have a process in which a claim should be processed. You need to know that. If you don't know that and so on, you'll be basically just, I wouldn't want to use the word harassing, but
Mm.
going out there and make statements that are not that true. And it creates friction and difficulty for even the public servants who have to basically deal with the matter. So we all need to basically brought up to speed as to what pertains, how you get it done, how much time you need to wait and so on. And you just predict that because you submit a claim and so on, you'll get your money the next day. It doesn't happen that way.
Right. Sheldon on YouTube is saying, so this man is actually saying that people might have to sell their homes to pay taxes. What a representative for the people. Let me say.
Let me tell you something.
Okay, you go first.
Those persons who are making those statements, I would say that these are the persons who basically encourage non-compliance. Because if these very same persons and so on complied with the instructions they have gotten to pay their property tax on a yearly basis, they would not be in the situation. Persons who do not file claim for income tax, they would not be in that situation and so on. So someone coming afterwards and say that the government is intending to sell their property to get their tax and so on. The question is, you still depend on government to find resources to do all sort of things, to meet the social programs, to basically meet the road repairs and all those things and so on. Where would government get those monies from? And I'm saying if you are prepared to own property and not take care of your obligation, the government will have a right to do what they have to do on the road to get the monies.
It's a personal responsibility because anywhere you go, and I'll tell you from the US where I sit, if I don't pay my taxes or if people here don't pay their taxes, there are severe action. The IRS will come at you. There's no if, ands, or it, right? Every jurisdiction, every territory have to implement and have to ensure tax compliance. As big as the USA is, and as much money as you think the USA have, they'll come after you for $10.
I agree.
And consistent and persistent to get the $10.
But when you have people in the system, okay, who know very well and so on that they have property, they need to pay property tax. And I mean, I do not want to basically use my example. I own property. I go there and pay my tax, even when I was out of government as an ordinary man on the street, because I know the banks could basically be in problem if they lend you money for a property and you're in default of your property tax. In fact, your lender should go after you to make sure that you pay your tax, because if you don't pay your tax and you owe the bank, you are basically just weakening or minimizing the security that the bank is holding in their hand, right? And if I was a banker, I would make sure that before I give you any facility, that all your taxes are up to date. Because I'm not going to hold a property as collateral, knowing very well that you owe government tax, because government can sell those properties.
Yes.
And people ought to know that.
Yes. But you see, all of this stuff goes back to PR, Mr. Cornwall. All of this stuff goes back to PR and educating the population. People know about this, but I don't think people understand the severity and the importance of it. Right?
Listen, there was a time in Grenada where, as a public servant or somebody who is owing government tax, unless you get a tax clearance from the Inland Revenue, you couldn't board a plane to travel anywhere. Because when you get to the airport, they could have stopped you and say, where is your tax clearance and so on. I mean, over time that has been whittled down and so on. But there was a reason for it. And the reason was to make sure that you were clean where your taxes are concerned before you can go on a vacation, before you can travel to do business and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I see no reason why it would have whittled down to where it is right now, where you have 700,000 plus, a million plus, sorry, in tax outstanding outside. And you ask the question, how did it get so bad? Because people took for granted the government and so on, and those who basically felt that, oh, I voted for this government, so I don't have to pay tax and so on. They were making a gross mistake. And it's time for people to understand that we need to basically clear up the system, because we do not want to go forward with a system that is imperfect, meaning that you might have person's name in the system 3 and 4 times. It might be the same person, it might be different persons and so on. But we need to know who is who and who is paying tax and who is not paying tax. And we have given you that amnesty period and so on to go and sort yourself out. If you fail to do so, don't blame the government at the end of the day. Blame yourself.
Well, that is, we could blame the people who are not compliant to paying their taxes, right? But the government have a lot of work to do in terms of the system as well. Because someone called me the other day and they said that they paid their property tax in Grenville. And they went to St. George's, they went to the tongue of St. George, and they was going to pay for the next year. But they were saying that they didn't receive the payment previously. And the person said, yes, I paid it. They could not provide the receipt that they paid in Grenville. So actually probably wasn't transmitted or some sort, wherever parish, I don't know if it's Grenville, but it wasn't transmitted. No, and they don't have the receipt. So it's in the system as a non-compliant. So that's a government fixing the issue problem there.
Yes. Well, let me just say that I don't believe that the system that we operated under were foolproof. Because again, the example that you gave on is one that I understand. But again, if you are a responsible taxpayer, paying your tax and keeping your receipt in a safe place is one of the responsibilities that all taxpayers have.
Yeah,
because basically you're based on which
I don't keep receipts.
you're going to go back to make your claim. If I cannot produce a receipt and so on, it means that I have not paid.
No. I am at fault of that. I think it's supposed to, at least, you can't tell me I paid it and I don't have the receipt. So your system, it was not updated, so it's my fault. I mean, people lose receipts. People's house might burn. People might get to move from place to place. People might lose documents. All of those stuff happen. That happens.
I agree that these things would happen. But again, if the system is integrated, meaning you have one system that basically accounts for whatever goes into it. If it is paid in Sauters, Grenville, St. David's, St. John's, there must be a trace in the system that has been paid. Now, I agree that a receipt is a form of basically verifying that you had paid or not. Now, if you lose that receipt and there is no trace of that transaction in the system, I mean, who do you blame? Do you blame the government for not having a perfect system, or do you blame the persons for not making sure that the receipt is secured? Now, I want to also raise that point. The system that we're trying to bring on board in 2024, it will be a digital system that makes sure that once that transaction is entered anywhere in Grenada, or anywhere that transaction was made, it will be in the system and it can be traced at the end of the day. But again, I'm saying that the amnesty is to allow people to come clean with their tax, as well as to allow the government to basically put systems in place that eliminate all such problems that exist, including the one that you gave an example of.
Right, because I believe as a small business owner, the easiest thing for anybody to do, in your mind, supposed to be to pay you. It's supposed to be, you're supposed to make it so easy. Because as a computer programmer myself, I learned that the end user is always stupid. The end user is you have to envision that the end user is a child, have no sense of anything. So you have to make it so easy for them to pay you. That should be the easiest process. So the government need to fix the system.
Well, as I said, we are working to fix the system.
Right.
But everyone has to play their part.
Yes.
Even those persons who have been evading paying the tax, they have to play their part. Even those who pay the tax and they can't find the receipt, they have to play their part. Right? So it may not be perfect at this point in time, but we're aiming for perfection with the taxation system down the road. And I'm asking everybody to play their part to make sure that that system works for everyone at the end of the day. Yes. Those who basically believe that they can evade tax for the rest of their life, I would say to them, joke you're making. Because if you want to sell that property down the road and so on, and there is tax outstanding on that property, before you get your money, the government will ensure that that tax that is due on that property is taken off. Yeah. So whether you like it now or you like it later, the fact remains that everyone should aspire to clear up all tax burden that they have on their properties, be it land, be it house, be it vehicle, whatever it is, and so on. Try and make good your payment to the system. And that's the only way you can get money to do to the government business.
Right. No,
Person who earn money and does not pay the tax and so on is illegal also.
yeah,
You're working and so on.
because
You are supposed to file.
in the US here again, child support, if you don't pay your child support, you can't get a driver's license. You basically you are stuck. You have to pay. The system, it would all forever be on your record. You can't do
Yes.
nothing if you don't
And
pay that.
you would face jail time. And when you come out from jail, you still have to pay the tax
You still have to
on
pay
the
it.
child support.
So it's not nothing new. I understand it's not nothing new, but our people, our people is already. Oh gosh, give me a blah. Oh gosh, you go treat me so. Take it easy on me. I need
Junior, I would say to you, that's a plausible excuse that has been used in the past and so on.
Yes.
Let us get our people up to speed to tell them.
Yes.
Foxing any tax system is not going to be good for you down the road. Try and be compliant at all times.
Yes.
I have seen people out there, for example, who has a job or doing self-employed work and so on. And even something like paying the NIS and so on, they believe they are taxed. And I'm saying, no. You as a barber cannot stand on your foot until you're 60 or 70 years, doing the same hours and so on. So at the end of the day, when you get to a point of retirement, you need to have something that basically bring back something to you. And it can be only done if you pay now. Absconding it, refusing to pay it and so on, and calling it a tax down the road is a waste of time.
Right.
Make it good right now so you can benefit down the road. And it goes for everything in life. The further you kick the can down the road, the further you procrastinate and so on, it's only going to get worse for you.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, Minister of Finance, Brother Cornwall, we're a little bit over time, but I thank you for taking the time to chat with us to give us some clarification. And we get to understand you a little bit more because there was a lot that people didn't know. And I think that was it was nice to understand a little bit more about the Minister of Finance, fully capable of doing his job. Been there, done that, if you want to put it like that. And you are taking a very strong stance come next year if people don't make good on the tax responsibilities now. And that is the final note. So you're calling on the people, everyone who have outstanding taxes, especially I think it's more so for the people who collect that VAT and don't pay that VAT. They intermingle it with the doing regular funds. I think that is the worst part.
Well, I agree with you fully because VAT collected from customers does not belong to the businessman. It belongs to the government of Grenada and so on. You're only used as a conduit to get the funds from the customers to the government. Yeah. It does not form part of your cash flow. Be aware, you should not use VAT collected on behalf of the government as part of your cash flow business. That does not work. It always ends bad. So I would ask persons to refrain from doing such a thing.
Mm-hmm. Someone said they never knew you were so evil. Oh, gosh.
Well, I don't want to sound like this big bad wolf because I'm not a big bad wolf. I'm just basically trying to encourage persons to be compliant. And there's a rationale for being compliant. If you forever want to believe that you could get away with murder, then it only ends bad for you at the end of the day. And people ought to understand that. Yes. You cannot basically continue kicking the can down the road. Persons being non-compliant, And as a government, you do nothing to basically recover the same money that you want us to be able to use to do the social programs and to build the roads and to build the ministries and to make sure that you can take care of government business. Then we cannot continue doing that. We cannot. And it's not that I am basically threatening anybody outside there. I have no desire to threaten anybody. But if I have to do my work, I will do my work without fear, nor favor or ill will, and I'll do it in accordance with the law. That's all I'm saying to you people out there. If you want to help me do my work, comply. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Cornwall, for coming on and giving us very in-depth information on everything Cornwall and everything taxes as well and the importance of doing so. Any last word, Mr. Cornwall?
Yes, well, Junior, I think it's a pleasure having reached out to me to basically get some unknown information out there. And again, as I said, to people who feel that I am this unknown creature that came from nowhere and has no background or anything like that, I must say that I always say that if you dig deep, you realize that Mr. Cornwall has been a very people person out there, very friendly person, has lots of friends. I have done a lot of things in my lifetime that I'm proud of, and I'll continue to serve my country to the best of our ability and to ensure that we can take Grenada forward. Every man on board, all hands on deck, and that's why I think we can get it done.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Cornwall. We'll keep in touch. Next time we meet up in St. Patrick, we're going to knock a glass.
Certainly.
All right. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Guys, just take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we take your calls and final closing words. Don't move. We'll be right back.
Yes.
The NLA is giving you more chances to multiply your Playway winnings by adding Multi-X to your regular Playway bets to win up to 5 times more. Imagine winning as much as $1,200 instead of $240 with a $10 Playway bet by simply adding Multi-X. Place your Playway bets from $1 to $10 or in increments on your favorite Playway symbols or numbers. Then add the Multi-X option at the same value to win 2 times, 3 times, 5 times more, or free plays. With Multi-X, you must bet the same amount wagered on your regular Playway bets for your winnings to be multiplied. Grenadians, value your dreams and win your way as much as 5 times more with Multi-X added to Playway and watch your money grow. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA, making your dreams come true.
Our bank introduces e-payments, our new e-banking feature that allows you to send wire transfers on the go to anywhere in the world. E-payments, the swift, simple, and secure way of transferring money.
Again, guys, Right Along Live is brought to you with the kind compliments of the 4th annual Miss Caribbean USA Summer Body Pageant that takes place at JLoft, 1055 East New York, East 45th Street, Brooklyn, New York. You got to check it out. All these beautiful ladies, 6 representing all around the Caribbean. It's Sunday, June 25th at JLoft. Get your tickets now. We just put the ticket information in the chat. Get it right now. Performing live, Hitman Inspector DeVille and Keisha Martin. I'll be there as your host. Looking forward to see you guys there. Guys, listen this. Playing Monday Night Mass. Woy. Monday Night Mass with amazing colors. It is so amazing. Listen, guys, for this entire day, it's been spent taking orders, handling orders, talking to people about changing their orders, upgrading, because we had a few sections that was sold out. We had to add some more numbers. It's been a wild day. Amazing colors. It's 3 months away from Carnival, but people are excited about playing Mass. Monday Night Mass with amazing colors, and also Juve jabbing color with amazing colors as well. Get your packages now. Go to mnngrenada.com. That's mnngrenada.com. Get your packages tonight. All you don't stick. mnngrenada.com. Now, there are many Monday Night Mass bands on the road this year, but there's only one that is truly amazing. Also, guys, Right Along Live is brought to you with the kind compliments of A Night of Love. A Night of Love brought to you by Sunshine Promotion. This is a massive event you can't afford to miss. to miss this one is to this. It's going to be one of the biggest events. Mother's Day, that is this weekend, the 13th. Yes, guys, massive event inside the National Stadium. Get your ticket. We just put the link in the chat right there. Get your ticket for a night of love. It is going to be so amazing as well. Hey, blessed gal, big up yourself. Get your ticket for a night of love, guys. I might even take a plane. Let me see if I take a plane. If I leave on Friday, I come back Sunday. Yeah. Okay, I'll be there. If you guys, if anybody have an extra plane ticket laying around, give me a birthday gift, because next week is my birthday too. So anybody want to give me a vacation? I accept JetBlues. Yeah, I want to go to Night of Love. Only give me a birthday gift. Give me a birthday gift, man. I want to fly me down to Grenada, man. Treat your boy good now. A Night of Love happening at the National Stadium. It would be simply amazing.
When your choice, class, and taste says luxury, visit JTS Luxury Home. With our spring into summer sale, all overstocked items must go. We stock a wide assortment of modern furniture, bedding, and home decor. The sale runs into midsummer or while stocks last. JTS Luxury Home, 467 Thomas Borland Street, between Pitkin and East New York Avenue in Brooklyn, where opulence meets affordability.
The best time I have for spice mask is plain mask with amazing colors. I love amazing colors. Always spectacular. Always amazing. Always amazing.
Thanks again, guys, for watching and being a part of our program today. Don't forget, if you have a business and you want to advertise on Ride Along Live, please shoot us an email. We have some good rates going for the month of May. All right. Inbox us for more information. If you're a small business, we got small business packages. We have just the right package for you. Advertise your business on Ride Along Live, reaching over 13 million views last month. Woo! 13 million views last month. This is CNN kind of numbers, guys. This is MSNBC kind of numbers. 13 million views last month. Wow. In the past 28 days, you guys are really making it happen. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being a part of our programming. On behalf of all our production team here at Ride Along Live, our senior executive producer, Lois JJ, very hard working on the wheel. Also, big up to Gail. Big up to, how you doing, Gail? Big up to Kibbs, Deanne Fraser. How you guys doing? Big up all yourself, moderators, always working hard as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for being a part of our program today. Catch me again tomorrow. More Ride Along Live. Good night.